was to explore Tourette's syndrome and tics disorders, and we brought together groups of artists, science experts, and people who have Tourette's syndrome and other tics disorders, and we got them to all work together so that they could create artwork as well as exploring various kind of themes about tics and about having tics.
I think it's always a scare of getting maybe a new tic or one that I had in the past and disappear, and you're happy that you don't have it anymore, and you're kind of afraid that it will come back.
Is it like a sun stuck in your head?
Yeah, probably something like that. Yeah, and then we come back. Yeah. So
you don't want to think about it because you're like, when will it leave?
Yeah.
One of the things we talked quite a bit about was the occurrence of something called phenometry urges, in which people get an urge to tic, which builds up as a sort of pressure. So often, the other thing people often say is it's like a tension that builds up. So you can imagine sometimes people, if you're frustrated, you're trying to thread a needle or something, and you keep missing, and you start to feel uncomfortable. And that's the sort of description people often say, is that there's like an uncomfortable body sensation, in the pit of your stomach, and it feels like a tension, and it builds up and it's stronger, and then the tic releases it. And I assume that's similar for the OCD as well.
Yeah, it's the same.
Behaving releases that and you feel more comfortable.
It just reduces that anxiety as well. But then it doesn't last long enough, which is why you have to do it over and over and over again.
We've been doing something called string art, which is basically where you're weaving different coloured string and bits of rope in amongst different nails and grids on different squares. And it's the idea that you're making artwork out of repetitive patterns and repetitive movements and interrupted patterns, which is quite similar to tics. So you can write different words that you might associate with tics, or you can kind of map out the movements of physical tics, or you can work together and you can have two conflicting patterns which interrupt each other. So there's lots of kind of visual metaphors that can be explored through this.
The most popular theory is that it's to do with some miswiring in a set of structures called the basal ganglia in the base of the forebrain. The basal ganglia is the area that refines movement and is involved in the initiation and control of movement, and it's thought to be some chemical imbalance in that area of the brain.
So what was that you called it? Conscious and unconscious.
I call it automatic and volitional, where you have to make a connection through an
foundation before then.
The tics and that's usually fairly exhausting.
When I finish grades.
We've been doing a series of portrait/board games, having each person observe another person in the group about what tics they naturally have. And so while we've been going around sharing information about where you're from, what's your favorite film, what's your first encounter with Tourette's, we've also been observing people's mannerisms and vocabulary, and then we've been mapping it all out. So we identified 4 tics for each person, and each tic became a different sized peg. And then we've been putting the pegs in the order that we've been seeing the tics happen throughout the day. So at the end, we end up with a board that's a portrait of one person in the group. And at the bottom of the board are different colored shapes that each identify the types of questions that you as the observer answer. So it's kind of a call and response between the observer and the noter, the note taker.
Really, today was great in a way because we brought together some of the biggest researchers in Europe who explore Tourette's syndrome in the brain, and we also brought together people who have Tourette's syndrome and their family members. So this might be their mum or their partner or their boyfriend, whatever. And we brought together professional artists and performing artists and just really explored what is Tourette's, what is it on a scientific level, and what is it on a personal level.
We're still grappling with identifying things, because sometimes, isn't it, Femi laughs.
That's off all the time.
But we keep telling him off for laughing. No, but you know what? I mean, he's been diagnosed for a year now, right, in his home. And we're trying to come to terms with what's Tourette's, not Tourette's.
One of the things we discussed was how Tourette's starts. And we didn't really get a good answer because no one really knew.
This time we also brought in performing artists, and before everyone sat down we got Les Majus to do rhythm workshops with everybody. We also saw them perform their scratch performance of Witty Ticky Ray, which is a production that they've been developing over the last few months.
Wow, what a view! Come see!
They've actually taken it from Oliver Sacks' book, The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat. There's a story in there about a guy, Ray, who has Tourette's syndrome, and the story is called Witty Ticky Ray. And what they're doing is they're bringing this to kind of modern day life and putting a different twist on the story and using real life experiences and concrete science to kind of expand the production and develop their piece.
So ours was very conversation based as well, although we ended up with a perhaps more traditional product in the sense that it's printmaking.
It's shit.
So we...
it's shit. It's not.
I had no idea how to react to that still after a whole day.